Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a small special. We're basically starting. This is going to be separate from the usual Streaminations. We're not actually starting season 4 just yet. We're going to read from this. I'm going to read the initial stuff from this live on camera. Because for some reason people like it when I read things on camera. So, and you're probably wondering why we're doing this now. Well, the first half or so of the book is the actual Journal of the Sisters. The second half is the Journal of Friendship, aka the one that happens that they start writing in after Castlemania. So that's how we're doing it. So, Dear Diary, my name is Celestia. Today my sister Luna and I are to be crowned princesses of Equestria. I'm starting this journal so we can both write about our amazing adventures as princesses. Well, I hope they're amazing. I don't actually know if they'll be amazing. I'm assuming they will be amazing, but I guess I shouldn't assume they'll be amazing, because they've never been the princesses of Pegasi, unicorns, and earth ponies. Maybe they won't be amazing. Maybe I won't be amazing. Maybe I'll be really rotten. What if I'm known as Celestia, the really rotten princess of Equestria? Okay, calm down, Equestria. Calm down, Celestia. You're freaking yourself out. Hi, Sierra Mike. Good to know that you're still alive. Take a breath. You're going to work hard like you always do, and as long as you work hard, you're going to be just fine. Okay, that's better. First of all, I just want to say I can't even believe Luna and I are going to be princesses. It all happened so suddenly, so unexpectedly. A very unusual unicorn sorcerer who called himself Starsroll the Bearded approached us. And when I say unusual, I'm not meaning to be rude, just accurate. First of all, he came by the Bearded quite honestly, because he has the longest beard I've ever seen. Second of all, he wore a large wizard hat and cloak with stars and moons patterned on the fabric, and all over the edging were bells that jingled and jangled when he walked. Let's just say I could easily find him in a crowd. Starsroll and his representatives, Smart Cookie of the Earth Ponies, Private Pansy of the Pegasi, and Starsroll's apprentice Clover the Clever of the Unicorns, told us all about the previous struggles between Pegasi, unicorns, and earth ponies. Since the tribes came to a peaceful understanding in establishing Equestria, they wanted rulers to uphold the peace, which is why they came to us. They knew alicorns stood for everything Equestria was founded upon: love, harmony, and friendship. And because alicorns are a combination of Pegasi, unicorn, and earth, they believed that they could represent the citizens of Equestria in an unbiased manner. All ponies being equal in our eyes, so they asked us to be their princesses. And that was really nice, but still a whole lot of pressure. I mean, Luna and I are very honored. How could we not be? It's not every day you're asked to rule over an entire land. Actually, Luna and I clarified our role wouldn't be as rulers, and we will not think of the ponies as our subjects. That would be very awkward. We will be Equestria's guardians. That sounds friendlier. We will serve and protect, watching over Equestria's lands and skies and keeping them peaceful and safe. I just hope I do a really good job and I have an amazing adventures to write about in this journal. Celestia. One moment, I need to change something on the stream layout very quickly. This will not take long. There we go. Sorry about that. Back into it. Not yet, SA2K. We're doing a little bit of a special thing first. Dear Diary, we are Luna, and we are to be crowned the Princess of Equestria. Thou art our royal diary, in which we shall write our most profound thoughts of being said princess, and... oh, forget it. I was going to try and write in the Royal Canterlot voice, which Celestia and I learned when we were fillies. The alicorns thought it was an important part of our education, but we both thought speaking like that every day sounded silly. The only time we really used it was when we were playing. See, we ran and flew in the hills of Canterlot, and we'd pretend we were princesses and talk in the royal we, being all formal and haughty and stuff, but as much as fun as it is to speak writing in the Royal Canterlot voice, it's just too exhausting. So I'm starting over. I'm Luna. This is Celestia and my journal, and we're going to make note of the interesting stuff that happens while we're princesses. Or as it's formally called, the Era of the Two Sisters! ! Yes, it actually writes out the words exclamation point. I'm going to write about the good stuff, the bad stuff, and hopefully some really awesome magic stuff, which will probably fall under good, bad, and awesome. Today's our official coronation, and while I was excited when Celestia and I were first approached by Starswirl and his band of merry ponies, now that it's actually happening, I'm a little nervous. I just really hope I do a good job for Equestria as their princess. I mean, it's going to be incredible, but it's a huge responsibility. In the end, I need to remember to be myself. And part of that is getting to know every pony and having fun. I'm excited to fly with Pegasi, get down to Earth with Earth, and whip up spells with unicorns. And I'm especially excited to talk to Starswirl the Bearded. I bet he's a great sorcerer, and we could learn a lot from each other. Plus, he has the best name ever. Then she has a picture of his hat here. See you around, Court. I will check Discord later. Don't worry. So, back to Celestia. Dear Diary, today's coronation was so lovely. Being crowned princess of Equestria beside Luna almost felt like something I've lived before, like deja vu. When Luna and I were fillies, we'd make tiaras out of the gems we found in the hills of Canterlot. Luna was so good at finding the prettiest ones. Then we'd pretend we were princesses and fly about our land, guiding our subjects, which were rabbits and squirrels, and a turtle named Jim. So today, as Starswirl the Bearded placed our crowns upon our heads, it just felt like a dream come true. Afterward, every pony enjoyed the fantastic party. Earth ponies had grown delicious food, and the Pegasi had arranged just the perfect weather. But the most magical moment came when Starswirl stepped up with 10 other unicorns. Using their unicorn magic, Starswirl and 5 focused their energies and brought down the sun. Starswirl then joined the other 5, and using all their concentration, guided them in raising the moon. It was truly amazing. It took a huge amount of powerful magic. Luna and I watched in complete awe. In thanks, Luna and I shot colorful lights from our horns, decorating the night sky. Every pony celebrated and cheered in celebration. It was the perfect finale to a most wonderful day. I don't know what I was worried about. Everything and every pony was perfect. I like Luna's entry, which immediately follows. It's hard to say, so I'll just show you that. It's just the drawing, which says, We art now a princess. So, back to Celestia. Dear Diary, because alicorns age at a different rate than the rest of the pony races, Luna and I don't have our cutie marks yet. Being a blank flake at our age never felt unusual. I've always known I would get my cutie mark at the proper time, but now that we're surrounded by so many ponies who have their cutie marks and are so much younger than we are, I must admit I feel a bit odd. Hopefully, now that we are princesses, Luna and I will find our true calling and finally get our cutie marks. Back to Luna. Selly and I have been touring all of Equestria, getting to know every pony and trying to decide where to build our castle. We've been flying here and there, putting our royal princess faces, and frankly, I'm exhausted. The question is, where do we build? It's not like every part of Equestria isn't nice. In fact, every pony is making a point of showing us how perfect their part of Equestria is. But to be perfectly honest, I'd like to be a place that's kind of far away from every pony. A sanctuary, somewhere where we can have our private time. Is that a bad thing for a princess to say? Probably, but even a princess wants some downtime, right? Anyhow, as we continue our search, Starswirl told us about this place in Equestria called the Everfree Forest. This place is awesome. The plants grow on their own, and the animals take care of themselves. No help from Earth ponies. The weather does its own thing. No Pegasus assistance needed. It's just kind of wild. But then at the edge, there's this ravine, and deep in the ravine is a really cool tree. I don't know. There's just something about it. Something magical. I just got this feeling when I saw it. I think that's where we should build our base. And she's got pictures in here she took of the Everfree Forest and of Equestria. Over to Celestia. Luna and I were talking with Starswirl about that tree in the ravine at the edge of the Everfree Forest. He told us it's not any ordinary tree. It's the Tree of Harmony. My gosh. I couldn't believe it. I totally flipped. I mean, I literally flipped in the air. Luna snorted at me and rolled her eyes because I'm such a dork. But to me, it was like meeting the most famous tree in the world. But that's because it's actually the most famous tree in the world. I've read about the Tree of Harmony in books, but I didn't know it actually existed. According to legends, the Tree of Harmony is incredibly powerful and is said to hold all the elements of all that is good and true. It's such a fascinating tree. I'm so drawn to it. On it are 3 markings: a sun, a moon, and a star. I've asked Star Swirl what these stand for, but he seems to have no idea. I don't know why, but I feel like the sun image is calling to me. Is that weird? Luna and I are both drawn to this Tree of Harmony, and we decided to build the castle of the 2 sisters right above the ravine. Star Swirl agreed, saying our castle built near the Tree of Harmony would give us strength and help protect Equestria. Back to Luna. Okay, I gotta share. So she has a sketching here of a big pipe organ and, like, armored ponies and, like, secret switches which you can pull and the stuff from Castlemania. She got, and it's labeled Castle Ideas. Dear Diary, Selly and I get to build our castle from scratch, and as much as I love my sister, all she wants is a traditional old castle with arches and columns and turrets and stuff. You know what I say to that? Boring. Why have a regular hallway? We can have a hallway with trapdoors. Why have walls that just stand there when they can be secret doors? Normal paintings? No, I want the kind with the eyes cut out, so I can spy on ponies. Who needs plain torch holders when they can be disembodied hooves holding the torches? Creepy! And sure, we can have a throne room, but I want a trapdoor into the throne room. Yeah, secret escape plan. Then I had this amazing idea for an organ that triggers the trapdoor, sending ponies through tunnels and plopping them outside. Not sure how that'll work yet. If I can convince Sally, this is going to be the best castle ever. Over to Celestia. My sister is so weird. She wants this castle to have all these old tricks and traps all over. And what do I really want? I want a library where I can finally put all the books I've been collecting all these years. Then Luna suggested we build a private room in the library where I could read in private. I totally geeked out at the brilliance of that. In the end, I guess we're both a little weird, huh? Back over to Luna. For the past couple of weeks, the Pegasi, Unicorn, and Earth ponies have been helping Selly and me build the castle. Things were going great, but the most horrible thing happened. A team of ponies headed into the Everfree Forest for more supplies and didn't come back. This is the first bad thing that's happened since Selly and I became princesses. I immediately wanted to fly into the forest to search for them, but Selly stopped me, saying we needed to discuss things first. I guess she was right. I couldn't just go flying off without a plan. I mean, should we both search for the missing ponies? Or should one stay with the crew to make sure they're safe while the others searched? I love the Everfree Forest and have been spending any free time I have exploring it, so we decided I should be the one to search for the ponies, while Selly stays at the castle and kept every pony calm, easing any fears. Besides, we both knew she'd be way better at that than I would. So I took off, did a sweep of the forest from above. I knew the path the ponies had been taking for supplies, and their hoofprints had been well worn into the ground, but then they veered off in a different direction. I landed to follow, since the tracks weren't clear from the air. It wasn't obvious why the ponies had gone this way, but all I could figure was they needed to get supplies from a new source. Sure enough, I arrived where the ponies had come for supplies, but there were no ponies. I hunted around, and I turned a corner and saw a cave that was blocked by a gate of brambles. Behind the gate, I heard cries for help. It was the ponies! I ran to break them free, but before I was able to reach the cave, a huge and horrible manticore flew at me, roaring in anger. Picture of a manticore. He lunged at me furiously, and I didn't know what to do. I'd never battled any pony, let alone a manticore. I took to the air to dodge his attack, but he just came right after me, since manticores have wings too, of course. The two of us began fighting in the sky, with the manticore trying to strike me with his massive claws while I tried to kick him with my hooves. I realized I also had magic at my side, so I fired at him with my horn, trying to stun him, but he was obviously much more used to fighting than I was. He avoided every one of my shots. I was beginning to tire out when suddenly Selly came flying in to help me. I'd never been so happy to see my sister. She shot a powerful ray at the manticore that was doubled by another ray from the ground. I heard a jingle of bells, and when I looked down, I saw Star Swirl assisting in the manticore's defeat. I added a third ray, and together we held the manticore in place mid-attack, brought him back down to the ground. As the manticore tried to break free from his magical bonds, I demanded to know why he trapped the ponies. I'm not sure what sort of answer I was expecting from him. It's not like I spoke manticore or anything. But then he began to roar his answer, and I realized I actually could understand him. Amazing! The manticore roared that the ponies had smashed and destroyed his home. They clearly had no respect for him, so he was going to make them pay. I suddenly realized the pony's new supply site has been the manticore's home. No wonder he was so upset. and all of a sudden he burst into tears. It was so sad. I looked at Selly and Starswirl, figuring they'd heard what I heard and could feel bad for the Manticore, but they were still looking furiously, and clearly had not understood his language like I had. I quickly relayed to them what the Manticore had told them. I explained to Selly and Starswirl the Manticore must have seen the ponies dismantling his home and thought they were just tearing it apart, so he attacked it and imprisoned him. The three of us released the Manticore, and he simply crumpled into a heap of sadness. He may have been playing tough on the outside, but he was a big softy on the inside. After freeing the ponies from their prison, every pony apologized for this terrible misunderstanding, and Celestia and I promised we would be remedied. Using our magic, we quickly reassembled the Manticore's home, and he admitted it looked even better than before. Then the most amazing thing happened. The Manticore helped us find the other supplies we needed, and came back with us to the castle site, and actually started helping us build. When Starswirl had arrived at the castle site and heard about the missing ponies, he'd figured I'd need help. I'm so glad he did. But Selly was really impressed I discovered the truth behind his anger. Being sensitive to everyone's problems will make us even better princesses. Over to Celestia. Actually, I'm going to take a drink. The castle is almost done. It's amazing what happens when you make friends with a Manticore. He's strong, he can fly, he knows every inch of this forest. Melvin, Luna said that's the Manticore's name, told her all about the hidden nooks in the forest where we could get even more supplies. Plus, Luna's now befriended many creatures in the Everfree Forest who have also volunteered to help. Between the ponies working the day and the crocodiles, and the crocodiles, bats, and owls working at night, we've had construction crews working around the clock. I have to admit it, Luna was right. While the columns and arches of the castles are lovely, her added design elements are so much fun. Though some of the ponies did give us weird looks when we were putting up the unusual decorations, like the paintings with no eyes and the hoof wall sconces, I don't blame them. Those things are creepy. Today Luna and I played hide and seek in the grand foyer. I love to duck behind the paintings and through the Hall of Hooves, and it still gives a bit of a fright, but the trapdoor slide is Luna's favorite. Soon the organ to the outside will be finished. I can hardly wait. Back over to Luna. You know what the best part of building a super weird castle with trapdoors and moving walls and creepy organs with tunnels? I get to test it to make sure it all works. And once I know it does, I get to mess with every pony. Oh, this is going to be so awesome. Back to Celestia. The castle is finally finished, and today Starswirl the Bearded arranged a royal introduction between Luna and King Bouillon of the Unicorns. I must say, King Bouillon was very gracious to come to our castle, considering my sister and I are now taking over, so to speak. There are various kingdoms and empires that were established long before Equestria was founded. During our initial tour, we made it clear to all of them we were not trying to step on any pony's hooves. King Bouillon is still Unicorn King of his region. As the Alicorn princesses, we were simply there to provide protection for Equestria as a whole. While King Bouillon seemed fine and quite secure in the situation, his daughter, Princess Platinum, appeared to have a tail and a twist about the whole thing. In fact, she behaved very rudely. Princess Platinum said we had no right to be in charge of any pony if we didn't even have our cutie marks yet. She continued on, saying, "How dare we think we can rule others if we don't even know what our true calling is?" And while it's true we don't have our cutie marks, we have lived far longer than this arrogant princess and been doing a fine job overseeing Equestria. I was about to speak very rationally to the princess in the matter, but Luna's dander was up. She really does not do well with snooty behavior, especially from some pony like Princess Platinum, who is not only far younger than her, but clearly just a pain in the hindquarters. While I can't necessarily condone what Luna did, it was absolutely hilarious and practically knocked Prissy Princess Platinum right out of her fancy frock. Luna. Cutting that snotty little unicorn Princess Platinum in her place was not only deeply satisfying, but also incredibly fun. Silly and I were very respectful, and Starswirl introduced King Bouillon and Princess Platinum, but when our introductions were made as princesses of Equestria, that little upstart turned up her muzzle, rolled her eyes, and claimed she didn't understand why Celestia was even needed. After all, she could have been the princess of Equestria herself. Why didn't anybody ask her? I couldn't believe it. If some pony like Princess Platinum thinks she can behave that way with any pony, let alone me, she is sorely mistaken. So I busted out my loudest and most terrifying royal Canterlot voice. Princess Platinum! My Canterlot voice is apparently dwarven. Princess Platinum, darest thou treat the princesses of Equestria in such a manner? We'll not amuse. Thy behaviour is disrespectful, ill-befitting of one in thy position, and reflects poorly on the unicorns thou art representing. Perhaps thou shalt be stripped of thy crown and thy title. I expected... The fun is now doubled! I expected the prissy princess to run and hide, but much to my surprise, she haughtily flipped her hair and stood her ground. Next, she started calling us blank flakes, because we don't have cutie marks yet. Hello? We're alicorns? There's no shame in being a blank flake at our age. But if she wants to get up in my business, she better be ready to take what she disses out. Hang on, I just had a thought. Give me 1 second, I'm going to adjust something. I just had a thought, and I'm going to do it. Okay, so we're doing Luna right now, right? Let's do... Does this look good for Luna? Nah, it's off-center. That doesn't work. Hang on. Give me a sec. I know what I'll do. There we go. This will be Luna. There. Clearly, thou dost not realize we alicorns age at a different rate than the other pony races. Our lack of cutie marks does not indicate a lack of maturity. Any more than thy brandishing one means thou art actually mature. I looked at my friend Melvin, the Manticore. He was up in the balcony watching this rather heated introduction. I gave him a wink. With thy cutie mark, dost thou think thou wouldst tamed the precious Manticore? Right on cue, Melvin came swooping down, letting out his most ferocious roar. In truth, Melvin's as gentle as a kitten, but Princess Persnickety didn't know that. She shrieked. We can't not shriek in fear when our subjects are in danger. Thy cowardice should have cost the lives of all the ponies in battle. She composed herself and claimed she would have gotten her wits about her and found a way to defeat the Manticore. I had to give it to her. This Princess Platinum was not willing to go down without a fight, but neither was I. We see, then, that thou art determined to sit upon our throne. I began to back the princess up towards my throne, and as I did, I looked over at Melvin and gave him another wink. He smiled and exited, knowing just where to go. Fine, princess. Let us see how thou likest the view. She sat down with a beaming smile, but just as she did, Melvin hit a chord on the organ. The seat of the throne whipped the princess around and sent her plummeting through the tunnel to the courtyard out of the castle. We all heard Princess Platinum shrieking. Suddenly I began to feel really bad. Maybe this wasn't how a princess should treat another princess, even if the other princess was behaving terribly. I ran outside and the princess was simply a mess. I felt even more horrible and was in the middle of apologizing for sending her spinning when she stopped me. And then the Princess Platinum actually started apologizing to me. She was terribly sorry for how she had spoken to Selly and me. It was not an appropriate way for a princess, or any pony, to behave. She said if I were willing, she'd like to start over again. Relieved, I reached out my hoof and helped her up, saying that would be nice. As I cleaned the muck out of her mane, the princess asked me, as her new best friend, if I could give her lessons on how to speak in the royal Canterlot voice. She thought it was fabulous. We have a feeling this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship that will totally not end in an assassination attempt. I'll turn this down a little bit. Hello? There we go. There we go. So, back to Celestia. No pony can deny that things with Princess Platinum started out rough. Funny, but rough. But now they're going along much more smoothly. When she saw how plainly the castle was decorated, she offered to have unicorns weave tapestries. Suddenly all these skilled unicorn seamstresses showed up at the castle and started weaving Princess Platinum's gorgeous designs. She created the most beautifully elegant images of Luna and me, and as the unicorns hung them on the walls, the tapestry provided the last bit of regal elegance the castle needed. Princess Platinum even designed our official seal for Equestria on the flag to fly on the top turret outside the castle. She said she was having more flags made of all of Equestria. I'm so glad Princess Platinum has realized Luna and I are here for all Equestria, including the Unicorn Kingdom. Has come around to being our friend. Back to Luna. No, that's totally something Luna wrote down. No, that was just me. That was me, Lord Aramont. Today, Celestia scheduled a tour of the castle and a meeting with Private Pansy, Clover the Clever, and... what? Oh, no, yeah, that's their names. Okay, Private Pansy, Clover the Clever, and Smart Cookie. I thought they were adjectives, but that's actually their names. I was just not in the mood to hang out with the four of them and talk about Equestria stuff, so I pretended I was sick. Then, when Celestia was giving them a tour of the castle, I went through one of the secret passageways and made the tour one they will never forget. Scaring Private Pansy was too easy. Just walking through the Hall of Hooves almost made her pass out. But when I reached my hoof through the secret hole and brushed her on the side, she nearly hit the ceiling. She jumped so high. Those ceilings are really tall. Smart Cookie was a little harder to scare. That gal is a tough nut to crack. I was watching her through a painting, trying to figure out how to fluster her. But then she stood right by a fake wall. I spun it around, sending her into a totally different part of the castle. And when I spun her around, I could tell she was shaken up. Finally, I just had to get Clover the Clever. And just like her name implies, this pony had her wits about her. Being a unicorn trained by Star Swirl, she has magic on her side. Every time I try to trap her a trick, she would counter it with a spell. She's clearly aware something was afoot, but just like Princess Platinum, what she didn't figure on was the organ to the outside. Celestia had them all seated for their big meeting, and wham! I hit the chords on the organ. Clover spun around in her seat and went plummeting through a tunnel to the outside. I quickly raced back to my room and got in bed. Sure enough, Celestia came in moments later to see if I was there. She let out an annoyed humph and left the room. Success! Wow. Dear Diary, I had a great meeting with Private Pansy, Clover the Clever, and Smart Cookie. So I should mention something. Celestia's handwriting is really easy to read. Luna's is not. Luna's is far more cursive. Whereas Celestia's is so much more typeset. That's part of the reason I had issues earlier. Anyways, they were the Earth Ponies who originally came to Canterlot. Let me amend that. After Luna's hijinks, and yes, Luna, I know it was you, I had a great meeting with Private Pansy, Clover the Clever, and Smart Cookie. They really represent these three races of ponies quite well. Smart Cookie noted Chancellor Puddinghead was making better decisions than usual. It's not hard to do. And because of this, the Earth Ponies were working harder than ever to produce the best crops in Equestria's history. Private Pansy said Commander Hurricane was calmer in leading the Pegasus Weather Brigade into action, and weather predictions were terrific, and her mentor, Star Swirl the Clover, and with her mentor Star Swirl, Clover the Clever and the Unicorns were working on fantastic new spells to more effectively raise and lower the Month, Sun, and Moon, and bring beauty to Equestria. Overall, all three of them said that since Luna and Mai's coronation, the sense of peace and harmony was visible amongst the ponies. By the way, in case you forgot, these are the roles that were played by the assistants back in the Christmas episode when they talked about the founding of Equestria. Clover the Clever was Twilight, Smart Cookie was Applejack, and Private Pansy was Fluttershy. Chancellor Puddinghead has to be the funniest pony I've ever met in my life. And while she has Smart Cookie to help her get things done, I think Chancellor Puddinghead knows a lot more than she lets on. That was Pinky, obviously. Today, she and I decided to play hide-and-seek in the castle. You'd think that since I had designed the castle, I'd have the advantage. Sadly, this was untrue. While I was hiding, the organ to the outside started playing. As soon as I heard it, I knew I was in for trouble. Suddenly, a trapdoor opened, and I went whizzing through the tunnel. I landed on my hindquarters in the courtyard, where Chancellor Puddinghead was waiting. Found you. Don't know how she did it, but I'm just saying the Chancellor might be less of a Puddinghead and more of a Smart Cookie than other ponies realize. Nah. When Star Swirl first invited us to his library, I knew it was going to be fantastic. But when I saw it, my eyes couldn't even fully take it all in. The shelves were filled with ancient books and scrolls covering the history of Pegasi, unicorns, and earth ponies. Star Swirl also had books and books and books of magic, things I'd never even read before. How's this possible? Star Swirl noted he had scrolls on everything from the Alicorn Amulet to the Tree of Harmony. Just scanning the shelves, I saw information I hadn't even been touched on in years of study. Just an example, while I've had plenty of Alicorn magic, the unicorns have their own theories and practices that differ from our ways. Amazing, right? Star Swirl said that we are always welcome in the library to read, research, and practice. I'm not sure if Luna will take him up on it, but I'm absolutely going to. Speaking of Luna, leave it to Celestia to geek out over Star Swirl's library. I mean, I want to work on spells with Star Swirl, but I don't want to sit in a big old dusty library and read through 1,000,000 tomes. The two book nerds were totally bonding over scrolls and ancient manuscripts and all sorts of boring stuff. Felt like they gave me a sleeping spell. Oh well. Star Swirl says he has an awesome spell he wants to work on with me. As long as it doesn't involve researching in the library, I'm in. Back to Celestia. Star Swirl's peculiarity made him a fantastic sorcerer. He tries things nobody else would even dream of. He's created and mastered hundreds of spells and has so many more in the works. There's one he's developing now involving cutie marks. It sounds very complex. As somebody who hasn't even gotten her cutie mark, I'm not quite sure where he's going with this spell. And honestly, it's so complex, I don't even know if he'll ever finish it. But his most exciting spells involve time travel, which is, of course, very challenging. The spells are causing him a bit of trouble. He has one time travel spell that can only be used once for a brief period of time. And while that's amusing, it's not really practical, and certainly not what Star Swirl wants. He desperately wants to be able to travel through space and time with no limitation. Yeah, me too. I'm trying to help him with the calculations, but it's proving way more problematic than either of us expected. Still, we're having fun trying. Yeah, well, she won't be born for like a millennia. Back to Luna. Dear Diary, there's one area of the Everfree Forest that Melvin won't go beyond. He says it's forbidden. Well, I say, as a princess of Equestria, that I need to check things out. So I went farther into the forest, and the trees got thicker and thicker, and I could barely see where I was going. The branches were scratching me. Even using my horn to light the way wasn't helping, but finally, the leaves and branches began to loosen up and I could see again. I looked out and saw a place I've never seen in all of Equestria. Tall grass was now under my hooves and covering the land in front of me. Terribly exhausted from walking and not seeing any pony in sight, I took to the air to find out where I was. Suddenly, I saw a village of huts and a group of ponies down in the group. Blah, blah. I'll try to not say Dear Diary, okay? Micromono, does that make you feel better? A group of ponies on the ground and went down to greet them. But as I got closer, I saw that while they had cutie marks, they weren't exactly ponies. They were unusually covered with stripes. When they saw me, they looked terribly frightened. Suddenly they started speaking their language, which was just as different as the stripes on their coats. Another comes with wretched wings. What kind of evil will it bring? When the last one came to haunt our land, we thought we made it understand. Just leave now, desist, and cease. We zebras wish to live in peace. Go now, leave forevermore. We banish you, O Manticore. Oh, maybe this is why Melvin said the land was forbidden. As I hovered in the air, I explained I wasn't a Manticore. I was Princess Luna of Equestria, part of the equestrian pony race called Alicorns. Most importantly, I did not mean them any harm. Hearing my words, the zebras calmed down, but they were still acting very wary. You say you fall under the equestrian race, and clearly we have similar bodies and face. What baffles us are your wings and horn. Do all your race get those when born? Understanding that if you've never seen any pony like me, it might be scary, I explained to them about the pony races of Equestria, from Earth to Pegasus to Unicorn, and how Alicorns are amalgamations of all three. The zebras listened very intently, clearly very wise and patient pony folk. When I asked what happened with the Manticores, since they appeared to be afraid of them, a zebra elder stepped up and told me their tale. Long ago, from whence you came were horrid beasts that bore that name. With bodies of lion these creatures flew. They came to hunt, and their numbers grew. Under attack we were resigned. This was the end of zebra kind. But then, with potions and with spells, the zebra formed protective shells. The manticores could not break through. They soon grew weak, and soon withdrew. From that day forward they have hidden, knowing zebra's land is forbidden. I was amazed by the zebra's tale. When the manticores grew weak, the zebras didn't attack them in return. All they wanted was for the manticores to leave so they could live in peace. I told them I only knew of one manticore in Equestria. Now, he's actually my friend. They were stunned at this, and I couldn't blame them. The way things started with Melvin, I hardly thought we were going to end up as friends. Then again, if I hadn't ventured through the Everfree Forest, I never would have become friends with the zebras. Whoop. Back to Celestia. Ask me later, Maestro. I was so furious at Luna today. Well, first I was annoyed because I couldn't find her anywhere and I had a meeting with Star Swirl. I figured she was with Melvin, but when I asked him where Luna was, his eyes filled with concern. I don't understand Manticore as well as Luna, but I'm pretty sure he said their last conversation was about some forbidden area past the edge of Everfree Forest. Melvin clearly doesn't know Luna well enough to know that if you tell her that something's forbidden, she's gonna want to check it out. He took me to the last place he'd seen her, at the edge of the Everfree Forest. I asked if he would help search, but Melvin refused to go beyond this point. Clearly this area was really dangerous. That's when I got scared. I told Starswirl where I was going, and if I didn't return by nightfall, he should come searching for us. As I pushed farther and farther into the Everfree Forest, barely able to see beyond the light of my horn, I grew more annoyed, more scared, and finally furious at Luna. What was she thinking? At last I came upon a strange landscape. I didn't even have time to take in its beauty because all I knew was that Luna was nowhere to be seen. I started flying, scanning the ground for her. Suddenly, standing in the middle of the grasslands, I saw Luna. She looked fine. She looked safe. I flew down, very relieved but angry. I immediately launched into Luna, telling her that she'd frightened me to pieces. How dare she go off without telling me? And didn't she realize that I would worry about her? After all, she was my sister, and the most important pony ever to me. But if I couldn't protect her, who could I protect? Finally, I stopped and realized I was crying, and all those who were looking at me, and those eyes belonged to zebras. I couldn't believe it. I'd only read about them in books, and Luna was just standing there in the middle of them. Seeing how distraught I was, Luna ran up and hugged me tightly. Hearing about the Forbidden Land, she just had to go there. And then she met the zebras and got swept up in their story. But she should have told me where she was going before she left. She was very, very sorry. Relieved that my sister was okay, I calmed down and introduced myself to the zebras, who must have thought I was a little strange, flying up and yelling at my sister like that. But as we spoke, they clearly understood wanting to protect those who were close to you. I just can't believe Luna's adventurous spirit led us to zebras. It's I've never really given my cutie mark much thought. As alicorns, we were always told that when it was time for it to appear, it just would. Nothing to concern myself about, right? But then I was hanging out with Starswirl this evening under the stars, and he said he wanted to teach me a spell that was too powerful for him. But he was confident that with practice, I could perform it with alicorn magic. Eager to perform any of Starswirl's spells, I asked what it was. Moving the stars, he replied with a wild gleam in his eyes. But as hard as I tried, it turns out moving the stars takes quite a bit of concentration. As I was trying to focus on the stars, I became mesmerized by the moon. Starswirl is one of the unicorns who raises and lowers the sun and moon every day, so I asked him about moving the moon. Well, he said he'd be happy to teach me. I thought maybe once I figured out how to raise and lower the moon, I could graduate to moving the stars. Starswirl was sure I'd be able to someday. He's such a great friend. I'm glad he has so much confidence in me. Starswirl invited Luna and me over to his library today, obviously very excited to share something with us. The two of us were waiting for him a while when suddenly he appeared out of nowhere. Luna and I were very startled, and then Starswirl announced with great excitement he'd finally mastered the time travel spell. In fact, Luna and I just witnessed his returning from his first trip. Luna gave me a look and nudged me to say something. I delicately said we were very excited for him, but I was a bit surprised he'd moved forward, because he and I had been trying to figure out the math for some time. Starswirl said he had gone through our last equation over and over again. He couldn't see any errors in it. Yes, I said, but thinking you've mastered a time spell and actually mastering a time spell are two very different things. Luna gave me another look, urging me to say more. This time Starswirl noticed and asked what was wrong. That's when I broke the news to Starswirl that while he traveled perfectly well through time, the equation still wasn't quite correct. It wasn't just a time travel spell. It was also an age travel spell. Luna levitated a mirror up to Starswirl, showing him that he was now significantly younger and had only a short brown beard on his chin. I wouldn't mind that spell. Selly loves to fly really fast. Always has since we were fillies. And since Commander Hurricane is the fastest fire in all of Equestria, at least until Rainbow Dash, she thinks racing with him is the best. The three of us were out zipping through the clouds when suddenly something with the head and wings of an eagle, but the body of a lion, came flying right towards us. Selly's eyes grew wide. "Griffin!" she yelled, but before anyone else could react, the griffin slammed right into Selly, causing her to plummet from the sky. Commander Hurricane and I went after Selly, flying as fast as we could to catch up to her before she hit the ground. The commander caught up with her, flew her down to safety. Even though the griffin had hit her really hard, Selly was fine, but why'd he attack her? Commander Hurricane explained that before Equestria was founded, the Pegasi and the Griffins had many skirmishes over airspace. They'd finally agreed on borders, but maybe since Celestia and I had taken over as princesses, the Griffins wanted to challenge this again. Selly and I asked the commander to take us to Griffin territory, see if we could clear this up. The commander seemed very hesitant about this, but if we were to protect Equestria, we need to keep it safe on sky as well as on land. Hopefully, negotiations will be short. Smooth is actually what she said. I couldn't afford the reference. I'm sorry. What do you want from me? I like Star Wars. When Commander Hurricane, Luna, and I arrived in Griffin territory with Gregor, leader of the Griffins, I did my best to kindly negotiate with Gregor the Griffin, asking him to please move the Griffins out of equestrian airspace. But Gregor was grumbly, gruff, and generally a grouch. He said the previous treaty stated it was Pegasus airspace, and the founding of equestrian made it null and void. I said he was being unreasonable, and this was a technicality. However, if he insisted, all we needed to do was draft a new treaty and simply replace the word Pegasus with equestrian, and all would be well. The citizens of Equestria would stay out of Griffin airspace if they would do the same with ours, but Gregor had absolutely no interest in listening to some polite alicorn princess. He kicked us out of Griffin territory and said if we wanted our airspace, we'd have to fight for it. Commander Hurricane had dealt with Gregor before and knew he wasn't bluffing. The Griffins would not budge an inch, but the last thing Equestria needs is an air battle. There's got to be a way. But what? If only we could just beat the crap out of them. Or wait, sorry, that's the JRPG route. The Griffins are getting really bold, flying into our airspace. It's actually getting quite dangerous for the Pegasus to fly. Even though he's merely been in charge of the Weather Brigade prior to this, Commander Hurricane is starting to get a defense force ready to battle. Sally and I don't really want a battle on our hooves. When I was speaking to Melvin, he told me Griffins and Manticores are kind of similar, and not just because they both have bodies of lions. They also both have very short tempers. I noted to Melvin that I witnessed this with him and Gregor, but Melvin let me on in a big Griffin secret. They're also known for having sweet tooths. Oh my god, that makes so much sense. Remember the episode, we haven't gotten to it yet, when Pinky, it's Pinky, Rainbow go to meet Matilda, I think? Anyways, sorry. If we don't get what they want, they can get really, really grumpy. This is totally what I saw with Gregor. But the question was, what was Gregor's treat of preference? Well, thanks to Melvin, I found out. As Griffins flew through our airspace, Melvin joined them and found out Gregor had a preference for pastries, specifically eclairs. Well, among his many skills, Star Swirl can whip up a batch of eclairs that'll make your mouth water. Oh, I should get eclairs today. Hang on. Yep, all the Griffins are hangry. It makes so much sense. I'm not joking. I'm adding eclairs to my grocery list right now. Eclairs. There we go. Okay. Moving on. Selly and I prepared to fly back into Griffin territory, but before we did, Melvin gave me one last piece of information. Back when the Manticores went into Zebra country, one of the things that really freaked them out was zebras speaking in rhyme. Now, he didn't know if Griffins would be weirded out by this as Manticores, but it was worth a try. With eclairs in our saddlebags, we flew to propose the Griffin-Pegasus peace treaty. And while I had prepared the rhyme, I thought it needed something a little to give it a bit of a royal touch. We princesses greet thee with a singular mission to deal with the gruffness of Gregor the Griffin. Through equestrian skies the Griffins did choose to fly with abandon. We are not amused. Then, Gregor, thy rudeness it did so offend. We could have just fought, but chose to amend. For animals, we find, do not attack when their stomachs are rumbling in need of a snack. So Star Swirl the bearded made your favourite eclair. Behold, remove thyself now from Equestria's air. Gregor was visibly shaking as Sally then presented him with his favourite chocolate eclair. I'm not sure if this was because he was hungry or really happy, or because of my voice, or the rhyme. But upon eating the eclair, Gregor's demeanor suddenly changed. He apologized profusely. He really was hangry. That's hysterical. He apologized profusely, thanking us both for being so patient with him, and willingly removed the Griffins from Equestria's airspace, as the new treaty stated. Gregor also admitted that he had been a bit cranky since his last pastry chef left. Gosh, I wonder why he left. Bad working conditions, maybe? He also wondered if he could get the recipe for Star Swirl's eclairs. Back to Celestia. Whenever Star Swirl travels in time, he is very careful not to tell us anything about our future. Though I can see in his eyes there may be troubled times ahead for Equestria. I'm just so glad we have the Tree of Harmony to give us strength. More and more, those three markings of the sun, moon, and star draw me in and make me think there's something special about them. When I said this again to Star Swirl, he got a little sparkle in his eyes. For once, he couldn't hide it. I knew it! Those signs are important for Luna and Mai's future. There's also a drawing here, and it's the cutie mark of Celestia and Luna that we will see on the tree later. Your diary. Oh, sorry, I said I wasn't going to read those. I'm really scared. When Silly and I became princesses of Equestria, we made a promise to keep Equestria safe, and so far we've tackled some tough foes. We confronted a Manticore, faced off with Grivens, but I'm afraid we'll not be up for what's coming. An urgent message was just delivered by a sentry of the Crystal Empire, saying that Princess Amore and the Crystal Ponies are in terrible danger because the Crystal Heart has been stolen. Sally and I met the Unicorn Princess during our first tour of Equestria after we'd been crowned, and unlike Princess Platinum, who acted like a total pain in the hindquarters when she must have met us, Princess Amore was not threatened at all by Celestia and me becoming princesses of Equestria. She totally understood the Crystal Empire was still her domain. She just could call on us whenever she and the Crystal Pony needed us. No pony thought that the Crystal Ponies would ever need help because the Crystal Empire had the strongest protection of all, the Crystal Heart. Of all the stories I heard in our travels, the one about the founding of the Crystal Empire is still my favorite. See, the reason the Crystal Empire exists is because of the Crystal Heart. When the ponies found the Crystal Heart, the young the young unicorn, Amore, found her true calling. As a pony who was always full of love, she felt an immediate connection to the heart. Amore projected positivity into the Crystal Heart, which then magnified that, sending it over what would become the Crystal Empire. Amore immediately got her cutie mark of a crystalline heart and became princess of the Crystal Empire. From that day forward, the Crystal Empire was protected by the love that emanated from the heart. Now that the heart had been stolen, Princess Amore and the Crystal Empire are weak and vulnerable. Selly and I must get it back, and that's what's really scaring me, because it was stolen by a dragon! And then she draws a picture of a dragon. And it actually does say a dragon, all caps, exclamation mark, if you're wondering. Because, of course, Luna would do that. Celestia. When Luna and I arrived at the Crystal Empire, things were in worse shape than we could have imagined. Without the love emanating from the heart, all the Crystal Ponies had completely plummeted into a state of darkness. Princess Amore tried to send a protective aura of love over the Empire by herself, but without the heart magnifying it, her unicorn magic just wasn't strong enough. She'd completely depleted herself of her powers, and it was unclear if they could even be restored. We had to get that heart back. Maybe that would help heal Princess Amore, but to do that, Luna and I would have to face a dragon. Princess Amore told us that a dragon lived high up in the crystalline mountain where the Crystal Heart was originally discovered by ponies mining for crystals. According to legends, when the dragon heard of the amazing gems and crystals that lay in the mountain, he took up residence there, claiming the entire crystalline mountain as his hoard. But he had been dormant for so long, nobody knew if his existence was even a myth. The Crystal Ponies began mining, and since no dragon disturbed them, they figured all was well. When they found the Crystal Heart, and the Crystal Empire was born, all concerns about the dragon completely vanished. But, obviously the dragon is very real, and views the Crystal Heart as his own. The question is, how do Luna and I convince a creature known for selfishness to part with something that can save an important part of Equestria? Luna. I don't think I've ever really said this, but my sister is amazing. First of all, we had to come up with a plan to get back the Crystal Heart. Sally thought we should try to negotiate with the dragon, which I totally got. I mean, who knows? Maybe once he knew how important the crystal was to every pony, he'd be willing to give it back. But, in case he attacked, Starswirl prepared a powerful spell so Sally and I could hold the dragon back. It was much more powerful than the one we used on Melvin. Still, dragons are incredibly strong, and I thought it was good to have reinforcements, in case negotiations and magic both failed. I immediately called in Commander Hurricane, who assembled an air squad of Pegasi. I also contacted Melvin and Gregor for help. It wouldn't hurt to have a Manticore and a team of Griffins ready for a full-on attack in case Selly's one-on-one went south. Selly and I, you notice the practicality as usual here. This goes back to that whole faith thing, Luna not having faith but practicality, Celestia having faith but not practicality. Anyways. Sally and I flew up to the dragon's lair with our backup close behind. We were expecting the dragon to be right there, guarding the Crystal Heart closely, but he was nowhere to be seen. The Crystal Heart was just sitting there, unprotected. He'd obviously stolen it and tossed it aside because it was sitting right on the edge of the cave like a bit of garbage. I told Sally we should just grab it and leave. but she wanted to settle things with the dragon and make sure this menace was no longer going to be disturbing Princess Amore and the Crystal Empire. Announcing herself as Princess of Equestria, Selly very politely requested to see the dragon. And whoosh! He was suddenly right in her face. He looked like he was about to strike, so Selly and I summoned the spell to hold him in place. It held the dragon for about 10 seconds. Then he ripped through our magical bonds like they were tissue paper. He seemed mildly impressed. We even tried to subdue him. The dragon demanded to know why we were disturbing him. Remaining calm, Selly said there had obviously been a misunderstanding. He took the crystal heart, which was of great importance to the Crystal Empire, and if he would kindly return it, we'd be on our way. The dragon picked up the crystal heart in his huge claws and held it close to Selly's face, telling her he had a lot of nerve to come here asking for it. After all, the crystal ponies actually stole it from him when they were mining the mountain, which was his. He then looked at the assembly of flying creatures ready to battle and merely scoffed. He asked Selly if this pathetic group was actually going to attempt to battle him if he didn't give the crystal heart. When Selly said that was a last resort, the dragon snorted at her and began to toss the heart around mockingly, almost dropping it at points. It looked so tiny as he flung it about. He admitted he could give it to us. After all, he had more than enough treasures, and really, the heart was just a trifle, and it was so tacky. But all that said, he couldn't, because he really didn't care what happened to the crystal ponies. What was his, and dragons don't share. If perfect... Wait, what? Oh, I missed a word. Even if perfect pony princesses ask politely. That was the straw that broke the alicorn's back. Selly was willing to put on a brave face and speak. She was even willing to battle, but to be spoken to with such disrespect by a creature that was doing something just to spite others, that was something she was not willing to allow. That's when Selly pulled out the best royal Canterlot voice I've ever heard. Suddenly she was on fire. She actually glowed red. That sounds familiar. How dare thee! This is Celestia this time. We are not any mere pony princesses. We are Princess Celestia, alicorn princesses of Equestria. We are here to protect the Pegasi unicorns and earth ponies of this land. Thou hast threatened our citizens, and we shall not stand for it. Return to us the crystal heart, or thou shalt pay a mighty price. We all looked over at the dragon. He was actually shaking in fear. He immediately gave me the crystal heart and zipped into the crystalline mountain. From the look of terror in his eyes, I'm sure he'd never be a problem again. Selly shook off the angry glow, becoming herself again. She didn't quite remember everything that happened, but we all agreed we should never make her angry. That's not disturbing. As soon as we returned the crystal heart to its rightful place, Princess Amore's unicorn magic was restored, and she was able to power the heart once again. The energy spread over the Crystal Empire, filling the crystal ponies with love, which fed back into the crystal heart. Every pony celebrated, inviting Selly and me to their very first crystal fair. Without Princess Amore and the crystal heart, the Empire had been so vulnerable, but fortunately now that the dragon was no longer a threat, they are safe, and no pony else will ever harm this perfectly peaceful community. Just when Luna and I thought... We're almost done, by the way. We've got, looks like 10 pages left. If you're wondering, we're 105 pages in. So, yeah, not that much. Just when Luna and I thought nothing else could possibly Just when Luna and I thought nothing else bad could possibly happen in Equestria, we woke up this morning to complete darkness. Well, not complete. The moon was still shining brightly in the sky, but the sun was nowhere to be seen. We were wondering who could have done such a thing when we heard the familiar jingling of bells approaching the castle. With horns aglow... The problem, Sierra Mike, is I read way faster than I speak. So, what will happen, if you ever hear me stutter, it's because I'm reading a word that's 3 or 4 lines below whatever I'm saying out loud. Just because that's how fast I read. That's why I stumble when I'm reading stuff out loud. This is why I should never do audiobooks. With horns aglow, Luna and I rushed up to meet Star Swirl, but when we saw him, we were shocked. While he physically looked as young as when we'd first met him, we asked where he'd traveled so he could have done this, but Star Swirl explained it wasn't time travel that caused his beard to go gray. It happened when he was trying to lower the moon and raise the sun. The sun. What? Of course they don't stumble. They're way better than this. Yes, Act, we've just been reading this for the past however long. Looks like 53 minutes? As Luna and I had seen, 6 unicorns are required for the task of raising and lowering the sun and moon every day and night. Star Swirl was always one of the 6 for both raising and setting, but it takes a powerful amount of magic, and what no pony had told us was the unicorns who volunteer for the job can only withstand the task for a period of time, before their magic is just depleted forever. Star Swirl himself had only been the only unicorn with strong enough magic to withstand this process day in and day out, night after night. But 10 other unicorns constantly needed to offer up their magic as sacrifice for all Equestria. This morning, they ran out of full-grown unicorns with magical abilities and were unable to perform the task. When Star Swirl tried to lower the moon by himself, he was unable to. His magic depleted, his beard gray. Luna and I looked at each other, mortified. Why hadn't Star Swirl come to us sooner? Why didn't he tell us this was happening to unicorns? What could we do to help? His eyes brightened. He had an idea, for, as we knew, alicorns possessed a level of magic far beyond anything a unicorn could imagine. Raising and lowering the sun and moon wouldn't cause us any harm. In fact, if the myths he'd read were true, it might actually rejuvenate us, making our magic that much more powerful. Then, as if he ever needed to say anything more, Star Swirl asked if, as princesses of Equestria, we would be willing to become the new guardians of the sun and the moon. Luna looked nervously at Star Swirl. He'd never taught her how to lower the moon, and now that he had no magic, he couldn't. Again, he smiled. He hadn't taught her because he knew she didn't need any lessons, and that was all Luna needed to hear. She and I looked at each other, and without even speaking, we expanded our wings and took to the sky. In perfect unison, I began to raise the sun, just as Luna lowered the moon. It was magical, and it fulfilled something deep within me. I felt a sense of completion, as if this is the kind of thing I should do. I looked at Luna as we landed. In the sunlight, I saw she now had a crescent moon cutie mark. I realized she was grinning oddly at me, and when I turned, I saw I had a sun cutie mark. We'd finally gotten them. But these were more than just cutie marks. Both of them looked very familiar. I ran down to the Tree of Harmony, and our cutie marks were the exact same symbols on the tree. Luna and Star Swirl had followed me, and when I asked if he knew about the pony with the last symbol, he shrugged, clearly knowing something, but I guess I'll have to wait to meet that pony someday. I did it! I lowered the moon! Even though Star Swirl hadn't taught me, I had a feeling. I already knew how to do it, and that this was something I should do. So when Selly and I woke up this morning to darkness, I thought maybe today was the day. And then Star Swirl showed up, and his words, they were the final boost of confidence I needed to take to the sky, meet my destiny, and get my cutie mark. But raising the sun and lowering the moon weren't the only things Selly and I had to fix today. Poor Star Swirl's and the rest of the unicorn's magic needed to be restored. Thankfully, with all the power we'd gotten from the sun and moon, Selly and I were able to return their magic to them without any problem. Star Swirl's beard turned brown again, Selly helped Clover the Clever, and once I brought Princess Platinum's magic back, I got to show off my new cutie mark. She loved it. I've always heard getting a cutie mark would make me feel more complete, but I didn't understand what that meant until it actually happened. When I flew into the sky, I knew I was going to lower the moon. Now, I can't wait until it's time to raise it again so I can enjoy the night. And to think, I get to do this every day and night for as long as I'm Princess of Equestria. When Luna and I began this journal, I said I was going to record our amazing adventures as princesses, and at first, I was afraid they wouldn't be amazing. But I have to say, from my end, they've gone beyond anything I expected. Now that Luna and I have begun raising and lowering the moon, we've finally gotten our cutie marks. I feel we've entered a new stage, so hopefully there'll be even more exciting adventures coming. Oh, is that it? Yeah, that's it. That's actually it. As princesses of Equestria, we will guide and protect all the ponies in the land, Celestia and Luna. And the next entry is Twilight's, after Castlemania. I'll use this. So that was the book, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed. This is actually the first time I read this. I actually made a point to not read this until, this moment. Kind of like I do with the other books I read. Okay. So, I am going to go... It took an hour to read, God. I am going to go ahead and chop off the local recording.